Thank you for joining us on the show.
What's going on? I was just listening to your CM Punk, Triple H, Kevin Nash saga reviews here.
Do you have any thoughts on what's going on?
Well, I don't know. I haven't watched Raw in the last 3 weeks. I'm on a little bit of a boycott, just for a little while. I just kind of have no interest in watching. I mean, I'll just kind of stay in the loop. I go on the internet to get my news, see what's up.
I understand that. Kind of like, I watch. There's so many other better television shows you can watch now, so don't worry about it.
No, with Entourage, the season finale this past week, and then you got Bill Maher coming back on this Friday, and then you got, there's a lot of really good. Jersey Shore is actually a good show, believe it or not. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I gave it a chance a couple weeks ago, and I kind of got into it a little bit. So, yes, I'm sorry to say I like Jersey Shore.
No problem. It's the same thing with me. I was like, what's this fascination with Jersey Shore? Then I finally watched it, and, I understood.
I still don't get into it.
Well, as a sports entertainer / professional wrestler, the whole thing is GTL, and we spend pretty much half the time you don't see us doing GTL. So, and then, just the whole philosophy with T-shirt time, it makes sense, man. Before you go out, you wait till the absolute last moment because you want to be fresh, man. You don't want to have, some pit stains on that shirt by the time you get out. That's not what you're trying to do.
I agree. It's a way to live life.
Well, speaking of you being a professional wrestler, at what age did you realize you wanted to, jump into this world?
I loved it pretty much since I was a little kid, probably 8 years old. So I think by the time 15 came around, or I think 15 or 16 years old, I just kind of figured, you know what, this is my, what do I love? And it just, all fingers kept pointing back to wrestling. So I think I just kind of decided there, I'm like, this is what I'm going to try. I think I have the tools. I was like, I was a tall kid, but very skinny. So, I knew I at least had a little bit of height. So I guess, based on the wrestlers back when I was watching, I figured that would help out.
What were some of those wrestlers that you watched that, inspired you to jump into the world?
I think Warrior was the first guy who kind of attracted me to professional wrestling. I'm sorry to say, but, if you were a kid growing up and kind of in that time frame, he had some appeal and, like that face paint, the music, he was crazy. But, as time went on and as he faded out, time in and time again, I started really getting into Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and, a lot of those guys who were really putting it down in the ring and really telling good stories. So, I started appreciating different aspects of the business.
And I read that you started out in UPW, and that's the same promotion that saw the start of John Cena and also the Miz's careers. How was it to look at them from that time and to look at where they are now in WWE?
Well, I think, Miz is a bigger surprise of the two. Kind of Cena came even when Cena first started in UPW, a lot of people thought he would do really well. So, but, I don't know if anybody figured this well. But, Miz is kind of, I guess, more the surprise because he was able to break through out of that reality TV, real-world thing and actually become successful in wrestling. But, he had the right minds, too, over the last few years. He's just, that's like he's been a man obsessed. And, he really, it's paid off. His hard work's paid off. Look how far he's gone.
And how did you make your way from the UPW to WWE?
I started at UPW when I was 16, but I ended up getting injured about 2 months in. Again, I started the same day as Cena, actually. And 2 months in, I fractured my ankle, and I wasn't really in shape to do it. So I got my ankle fixed, took a couple of years off, really focused on bodybuilding. I didn't really ever want to be a bodybuilder. It just became kind of a hobby. And I came back at 19, and, I was more mature. I definitely had a better build, and, I was just, ready to go at that point. 16 was probably too young looking back at that. So, I came back at 19, and I started training. About a year later, WWE would come down and scout talent, and eventually they picked me up, probably about a year in. So I was about 20 years old, I think, when they signed me. Maybe still 19 even.
Oh. With you getting injured so early in your career and being young, only the age of 16, what drove you to continue with that wrestling training and dreams of being in WWE? Because somebody like me, I would have took that as a sign as this is not what I'm supposed to do, and I would have moved on to something else, especially being 16 years old.
Well, it was a freak accident, and I didn't really ever have the idea that I was done. I just figured, looking at the situation, I'm like, I'm spending this money on wrestling school. I'm only 16 years old. I'm not in shape like all these guys. Like, all these guys were just like monsters. They were just huge and muscular, and, they just all had something. I just knew that it wasn't really, that I kind of needed to go back to the drawing board and, reevaluate kind of how I was going to approach it. So, it was an ankle fracture, and it was really painful, but the surgery was a scope, and, that kind of stuff is bound to happen. So I don't think I dwelled upon it too much.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about was, I actually had this match on DVD. It was the Elimination Chamber you were in. You're actually in there with John Cena, and, one of your people you said you had with Shawn Michaels and, Kurt Angle. What was that like to be on a main event stage and actually be the last one eliminated in that match?
It was real cool. I remember going into that. It was my 22nd birthday, and I've just never been in a match like that. So it was kind of intimidating from that aspect of looking at that. Like, I hadn't been in a cage match or a ladder match, and, how was it going to be different? And then you see the structure itself, which is very intimidating. So I came in on a red eye, too, which doesn't help anything. Red eyes really, for me, it just kind of messed me up the whole day. It's, basically flying out at midnight out of here on the West Coast to get to New York at about 6 a.m. on, whatever sleep you can get on that flight. So, there were a lot of mixed emotions, but I just remember it was intimidating most from the aspect that I've never been in a match like that, or a cage or a ladder match, so I didn't really know what to expect, but I turned out real cool. I liked the whole story of it, of, it being Carlito and me being the least likely to walk out with the title, but, we kind of united on that and took out everybody up until Carlito screwed me. So that was cool.
I wanted to ask you about something. Actually, you probably don't remember this. I actually met you a long time ago, not a long time, a couple of years ago. You were doing charity work. I don't even remember the charity. That makes me sound like a bad person. But you were talking to
I'm not judging.
Some underprivileged kids.
I just said I wasn't judging.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, but yeah, there's some underprivileged kids from LA, and the guy who created Baywatch was helping run the charity, and they were going to go swimming and everything. But they talked to you, and then you talked to them and talked about kind of believing in their dreams, and then you signed some autograph for you. Do you do any other charity work or continue doing some charity work?
I'm always open to it. That was something that was set up, I think, through my ex-girlfriend. Was that over in Malibu, or?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
It was like Malibu over at the university, I think, over there. The Pepperdine. Yeah, that was real cool. I remember that. Yeah, those kids. Yeah, they were all those underprivileged kids, and they were real cool, and they were asking questions. Yeah, I remember that. I think we had pizza that day. We had some good pizza.
Yeah, no, I just never seen that. After seeing you do that and everything, I was like, all right, that's it. I'm a Chris Masters fan and everything. It was really cool to see you there and just talking to people. So that was just just kind of a personal cool experience. And I just wanted to know if you had done something.
Oh yeah,
really
well
cool.
Thanks. I don't I don't go out and seek it, but I mean anytime anybody reaches out to me, I'm always open to do it. It's just you don't necessarily know who wants. I guess kids always kind of get off on a professional wrestler a little bit if they watch. So, that's definitely a good route. But I've done other ones like the Ronald McDonald charity and stuff, but that was all through WWE. That was just on my free time.
And another thing I wanted to ask was, I know you spent some time in OVW, and you actually won the tag team titles down there. What was that experience like?
Well, I teamed up with Gunner Scott, a.k.a. Brent Albright, who was nicknamed Quiet in OVW because, he wasn't a bad guy, but he wasn't liked by really anybody. And so me and him kind of butted heads a little bit. He's not a bad guy, but he would just say the wrong things at the wrong time and get over at other people's expense. So, it was kind of rough going down that path with him. But, you know, it was fun, too. I just think OVW is kind of like my college. And it was such a funny, crazy environment because it was such characters between Jim Cornette, Danny Davis. I mean, it's like you were stepping right back into the 80s. I mean, they didn't want you going out to eat with, if you're a babyface, you can't go out to eat with a heel, and if you did and got caught, you get fined. And, you know, they were just, like, still real crazy about all the old traditions of the business. So, you know, I look back at that experience. I'm just really happy I had it because for all of us, too, who were down there at the time, like, you know, me, Matt Morgan, Mickey James, Johnny Peter, Chris Cage, and a lot of others, I mean, it was, you know, we had a good bond down there. It was like, it was very innocent. It was before, you know, you get called up, so you're in developmental, and, you know, we were just able to kind of have fun. It was before things got real serious, you know, because it gets, it changes once you get called up because then it's like, you know, then the money escalates and, you know, it's about TV time and politics and everything else.
How was that transition for you? Like, how did you come out of that successfully?
I don't know if I did come out of it successfully. I mean, you just kind of adapt. I mean, when I came in, both times it was very different. Like the first time there were a lot of the guys from the generation before me, and then the second time, you know, they were a lot of them almost being phased out, if not retiring, and there were guys who started after me. I mean, like the second time around, I felt like I was kind of an old schooler, even though I was only like 27 years old. I was like, wow, most of these guys started after me. I mean, you look around at like Kofi Kingston, MVP, and Jack Swagger. I mean, all of these guys started after me. So, I mean, it was just two very different places. But, you know, it was hard to transition the first time just because, you know, you have guys like Val Hawley and JBO who, you know, weren't welcoming to new guys, and there was a lot more insecurity about spots on the roster. So, you know, it was a tougher transition the first time. Second time I knew a lot more people, and, you know, the people I didn't know had come in after me, so it's kind of different.
After parting ways with WWE the first time around, did you have any reservations about returning to the company?
No, I think I always kind of figured in the back of my mind that I would come back just because, you know, to me it was, you know, I had made some bad decisions in my first run, and I wasn't mature enough to handle it. And, you know, eventually I looked myself in the mirror and realized that, and I came back. I got myself together. I got myself straight, and I came back, you know, a different person. So I don't think I mean, it wasn't, you know, I would have denied it at the time, but I think in the back of my mind I always kind of figured I'd be back there at some point just because of my youth and because of the way things went down, and, you know, because I know that they were high on me.
Did you have any kind of expectations of what you were going to accomplish with your second run with WWE?
Well, you know, initially I was just happy to be back. I felt like, you know, I was given the second chance, and I was really grateful for it. But I think for me it was a thing. You know, after a certain point I knew that they had no incentive to really do anything with me. They weren't going to push me or anything like that. So I knew that I had to make the most of every minute I got because, you know, I wasn't getting any promo time either. So I think it really motivated me down the line. I mean, eventually I just kind of, what am I trying to say? I mean, what was your question, just to go back to it?
Did you have any expectations of, you know, what you were going to accomplish with your second run in WWE?
Oh, I think if nothing else, I mean, my incentive was to, you know, I heard a lot of criticism in my first run about how I was a body guy or a bodybuilder turned wrestler, and so, I mean, a big part of what I wanted to accomplish was to prove that I wasn't just a body guy, that I could go. And that's what really kind of motivated me within the last year, because to go back to that point, the point I was making, I wasn't getting promo time or anything like that. So, you know, I was getting these 2-segment matches on Superstars, and it really just became my outlet to go out there and really I indulged myself kind of in the art of professional wrestling, and, you know, really just kind of was on this mission to perfect my craft and tell a story and, you know, sell the body part and, you know, just up my game on every level that I could, just so I could kind of, you know, leave them kind of with no choice but to do something with me at that point. Because that was what Arn Anderson kept telling me, too, every week, is he's all like, you know, you're doing so good, just make them do something with you. And, you know, that kind of resonated with me. And from that point on, I was just, you know, on a mission. Every single night I gave it my all, you know, and I'm probably most proud of the matches I had with him the last year, because I think I worked with at least had a decent, you know, if not a great match, at least a decent match with every heel in the company.
Speaking of those comments from Arn Anderson, were there any promises made by people in management, like kind of like a be patient and wait, your time is coming type thing?
Well, you know, Hunter had pulled me aside just a few months ago, and he kind of communicated to me that Vince and him had noticed kind of the progress I'd made as far as my in-ring work, and it just came down to we needed to figure out what to do with me, and he kind of alluded to like a fresh coat of paint or repackaging or possibly taking me off TV for 3 months. So we had that conversation, and we had conversations similar to that like a few times, and I even ran ideas by him, and then you fast forward to 4 months later and I was released. So, you know, that's where I'm coming from when I'm asked what was a surprise to you and why. Like, I can see from a wrestling fan standpoint, you might be like, oh, well, they haven't used him in any vital storylines or anything like that. But, you know, I was kind of under the impression with the way I was coming along and just kind of how much I devoted myself to the company that this was going to be my year. And also based on just kind of my conversations with Hunter and what I was being told Vince was kind of thinking, and, you know, he was digging on my work.
Now, when those plans and the conversation that you had with Triple H, when it didn't materialize, did you think that you were being sold a bill of goods and intentionally being misled, or did things just not work out for whatever reason?
I don't think I was being misled because, you know, I had other people kind of coming up to me and telling me what Vince was saying during my match in Gorilla, and so I kind of knew that the general consensus was Masters has gotten really good, and you know, I kind of felt like basically I was kind of the best kept secret in WWE because I had been on Superstar so long. So I don't know if I was misled as much as it came down to maybe, you know, in their meeting they just, you know, 3 months had passed and they're like, well, we don't know what to do with them, so let's cut them loose. You know, that could have been it. But, you know, I don't necessarily know for sure. I mean, you know, we can only speculate, really. I was told company restructuring, but, you know, what does that mean?
We've heard many times over the years that some talent feel as if they're not being utilized to their fullest abilities, and they get frustrated enough to the point where they ask for their releases. Was there ever any point where you contemplated asking for your release?
Oh, yeah. Well, 2 weeks prior to that, I was already thinking about putting in a call to Hulk anyway, because I had a relationship with his son. So, you know, I kind of backed out from it, which, you know, obviously maybe I should have, because I just kind of figured at the time, I'm like, you know, they're not really using me for anything, you know, and I haven't had any encouraging conversations with anybody, and so I was just thinking, I'm like, well, if they're not going to use me now, they might not use me because they need baby faces now, like this is the time. So, you know, that was the one time I kind of thought to myself, like, maybe I should just see, you know, what else is out there. But I ended up not doing it, and then 2 weeks later is when I got the call, so.
So when you go back to that moment where you got that call, was it like frustration, anger, or something like relief?
It was like, well, I mean, it was a mixture of shock and relief. But, I mean, I kept telling myself, and I'm just going to say this in PG, I'm just going to say they F'd me. I mean, I told myself that for a while just because I was like, wow, it was just so shocking not to at least have a conversation with, you know, after having those conversations with Hunter, after working your ass off for a year, you know, the last year, just, you know, completely dedicating myself and getting better every week, you just think that you would at least maybe have had a conversation with somebody before that where they're just like, hey, there's nothing now for you, you know, go do your thing for a couple of years or something like that. But, you know, nothing. It just went from having those encouraging conversations, me just feeling like, all right, my hard work's paying off, to out of nowhere, we're letting you go. It was so shocking, but I mean, there were a lot of aspects that were really, because it was just like at the point where it's like, all right, well, I mean, if there's nothing, you guys don't have anything for me right now, and I don't want to just be sitting around forever just doing nothing. So, it might be just for the best, actually, for everybody, just for me to go do my thing. And, who knows what will happen down the line. You can never say never, but, I'm definitely not gearing my life towards a WWE comeback again at this point.
In hindsight, do you think that there was anything that you could have did to, like Arn Anderson said, make them notice you, make them want to do something with you? Or do you think that it was just not working in management and there was nothing that you could do about it?
Well, I should have just I could have taken initiative and maybe pushed a little harder for different ideas or storylines or whatever, or, I tried to make it a point to pull Hunter aside when I could, but I hadn't talked to him in a while. So, maybe it could have just been a fact of maybe I should have took more initiative, or like I said, they just didn't know what to do with me. But, I just kind of feel like I have all the tools in I'm kind of at the peak of my career, I think, at this point. I'm 28 years old. My in-ring work is better than it's ever been. I'm in shape. And I do have a personality. Like anybody who got to see the SummerSlam Invasion, Masterpiece Theater, that's me. So, I don't feel like – the thing I feel like I didn't get is a platform to really show any of that the second time around. Like I got – they brought me back and, I did a couple good spots early on, and then they kind of trailed back. And then I did the peg dance thing. And then they started to test me out a little bit, and then I faded out. But, this 2010 and 2011 were the years I really kind of came into my own and evolved as a performer, and I was really confident to take on any challenge. And, I felt like I could have got myself over. So, it was really a matter of just giving me a platform one more time before just cutting me, I think. But, it's okay. It might be the best for everybody.
And actually, I missed you at SummerSlam Access because I was there at the earlier session, and I kept telling myself, for some reason, I wanted to switch my tickets to the later session, and that's the one where you showed up. So I knew I should have switched my tickets.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was fun. If you saw it, we just kind of went around and filmed some stuff and mingled with the people. And, it's in L.A. These are my people out here anyway. So, it was real cool. I had a lot of fun, and it was overwhelming, though, I'll say that much.
How was the reaction from the fans? Like, did they come out really supporting you and wanting the best for you after your departure from WWE?
Yeah, well, that's the most vindication I feel, not just from the fans at the Staples Center, but just through the Internet and Twitter and whatever. A lot of people have kind of acknowledged the hard work I put in over the last year and a half. And, even CM Punk, even though that was a part of their promo to build for the pay-per-view or whatever. Him just throwing that bit in there about me working my ass off. Just the acknowledgement, just people noticing, and because, like I said, I wanted obviously to get in the mix and get in a good program, start a good storyline. But also my goal was just to prove that I'm not just a body guy and that I could go out there and work. And I feel a lot. Very much vindicated in the fact that a lot of people have come out and said, you really came along. It was like night and day, and they noticed, the great matches with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler and Tyler Rex and whatnot. And, I was really proud of a lot of those. It's too bad that a lot of them were on Superstars because they would have been great matches for a Raw or SmackDown if they would just give the time to matches again.
And do you see any guys that are featured on Raw or SmackDown and you, wonder why they're featured instead of you, I'm not going to go there again. I'm not even going there again. People have made such a big deal about the JTG thing because another radio show I did, brought up JTG, and then I ended up bringing him up in the next interview, and now everybody's all, giving me all kinds of crap. So, it's not about putting anybody on blast. Do I think there was a lot of people who should have been cut probably before me? Yeah, there's quite a few, but then again, I'm not going to hate on anybody because that's not what I'm going for. That's not me. I'm not hating on any of them. Like I said, it just may have came down to a fact that they just didn't have anything creatively for me. Maybe Hunter sat back for that 3 months and he couldn't come up with anything and just came down and said, hey, business is down, the economy's down, we got to make some cuts. And the cut to me definitely did one thing for sure is it put everybody on edge up there because,
it was probably the most surprising of the cuts, just because I had good relations with most of the people back there. I worked hard, and with all the other cases, there was kind of something that stood out, whether it was Melina's personal issues or Oleg's in-ring limitations, if you will.
A little bit earlier, you mentioned you thought about calling Hulk. Were you referring to Hulk Hogan?
Of course. Brother. Big brother.
So, could we see you making an impact, in the near future?
Hopefully, man. I'm not leaving anything off the table this time. I'm obviously going to be a lot more open-minded, just because this time, I did everything I could, and I feel like I did everything right. And, I'm not going to focus myself on a WWE return, but I'm not going to leave all, whether it's Impact or Japan or Ring of Honor. I mean, I just love to perform. My passion is pro wrestling and sports entertainment, and as long as I can make money doing it, I'm going to do it.
I think that's really awesome. And I like to see you on TNA. It'd be a little interesting to see you going someplace at TNA. I think TNA's starting to turn around a little bit, and I think it's a chance for superstars who necessarily didn't get a lot of attention, like one of my personal favorites, Katie Lee, to kind of become someone that everyone can recognize in the wrestling community.
Yeah, and, maybe one company's loss can be another company's gain. I mean, WWE invested in me since I was 19 years old, and they kind of cut me right when I was reaching my peak. So, I mean, I have a lot to contribute to any company that wanted to acquire me. I mean, I have the confidence, the ability, I have everything going for me now in terms of, and not to sound cocky or confident, just I have the years under my belt now. I have the experience. It's so different from when I was 21 and just thrust upon the scene. I've begun to understand, the in-ring workings so much better, and I think that definitely there's a lot of great people down at Impact that we could create some great matches with and tell some great stories. And, I got a lot of personal friends over there, too, so we'll just see what happens. I got a couple of months I got to wait, so.
Yeah, the clause. One quick question I wanted to ask you, just out of curiosity. Was it you or somebody else in, management or creative who came up with the master and, the unbreakable master lock?
Well, Matt Morgan actually came up with Masterpiece when we were hanging out down in Louisville, in OVW. And then the Master Lock later came along once we decided the full Nelson was going to be the finish. They went to see if they could get the copyright rights or the trademark rights to Master Lock, and they got it, and there it was. It all kind of came together. It started as Chris Masters, then evolved to Masterpiece Chris Masters, and then evolved to the Master Lock and Masterpiece Chris Masters.
That's really cool. I mean, it was always an interesting kind of get-up with that, because it was, literally you just have, matches, not really matches, but just, segments booked to, can someone break the Master Lock? And it was, almost kind of like a wrestling variety show in that sense. Hey, can Booker T or can Shawn Michaels do it this week?
Yeah, but they spent a lot of doing it. So, as crazy as it is, the hold still gets a roots to this day, so they built it right, that's for sure. With my help, of course.
Of course, no. You made it work and everything. And one thing I did want to ask about Superstars, because Superstars was a show I actually used to watch when it was on WGN, and then it moved to the internet. Do you think that that Superstars, in a general sense, is a good thing to have, even though it's on the internet now? Or do you think that it's kind of there?
Oh, I think it's great. It's great because that was a show I was able to really develop on, because you're given more time than the regular shows. There were weeks where I'd have 10, 15, 17-minute matches on Superstars, and then I'd go to SmackDown and have 4 minutes. So it's a great show to for people who really just like to watch wrestling. And it's a great show for the wrestlers or sports entertainers to develop, just because you have the time. And, there's just such a huge difference from our aspect being in a 4-minute match to a 15-minute match, because it's hard to get a really emotionally invested and feel a 4-minute match. But when you're out there for 15 minutes and you got a 2-seg match, you really have some time to, beat the guy up, and you get beat up, and you know, it's just the juices are flowing and just you're feeling it. And, you know, those are the matches that you get the best out of people because they have the time. I mean, with the guys who can make use of the time, obviously. Not everybody can go out there and, you know, some people will look worse in a 15-minute match than a 5-minute match, and which is part of the problem. You know, they have a lot of guys who they call up prematurely, so, and I was one of them.
And one last question I kind of wanted to ask you was basically, excluding WWE, is there somebody in TNA, overseas, AA, that you would like to face in a match, like kind of like a dream match, somebody you'd like to go against?
You're saying like a dream match?
Yeah, just anybody you would like to, like, kind of go one-on-one against in the future.
I mean, you know, all time, of course, it was HBK who I worked. I mean, there's a lot of guys. I mean, in WWE before I left, a couple guys heels that I really liked working with, and I felt like we could have great programs was Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. But in terms of just like, you know, overall like dream match of all time, you know, it'd be cool to work some of the guys from the generation before me that I never got a chance to, like Randy Savage or even Ricky Steamboat in his prime or Rick Rude. I mean, any one of those guys, just because, I mean, those were a lot of guys I came up, you know, watching. So.
Yeah, no, I think those are great choices. Those are up there with me if I ever could do that, but I can barely lift a textbook, so I probably can't be a wrestler.
Anyways, I gotta get going though soon, guys. Can I throw out some plugs?
Yes, sure.
Oh yeah, Twitter you can follow me on Twitter at WWE Master P, and for bookings, interviews, etc. You can reach my booking manager Vess at masterpiece3@gmail.com. I heard one of you guys had a question though. What's going on? What you got?
One of the things I like to watch is Japanese and Mexican wrestling. Would you be interested in taking your career to a national level where where wrestling is more of a sport than like an entertainment?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just because I feel like that's kind of my strong point now, and I think Japan would be a great place for me to go down and get that experience. I did go down there one time before, the last time I was released, but it wasn't really enough to fully experience the culture of wrestling there. So. And I definitely feel like my style's evolved to the point where I'd be a good fit there because I don't mind getting hit. I don't mind, and I don't mind hitting people. So, and I'll be in Mexico actually. There's a tour booked in November where there's going to be a number of guys, including myself, Molina, Tommy Dreamer, Carlito. We're doing a tour down there from like November 3rd through November 21st.
Awesome.
Are you doing anything or have any bookings before that? Like, where can we see Chris Masters next?
Well, this weekend I'm going to Viva Las Vegas for the Mr. Olympia contest to hopefully get some footage, maybe shoot some Masterpiece Theater down there and just see kind of what's going on. There's a lot of hot chicks in Vegas for the Mr. Olympia, so it's a win-win situation for all. And the week after that, I'm going down to Philadelphia. There's going to be a convention down in that area, so I don't have all the exact details, but if you're in the Philadelphia area, look up wrestling convention for that whatever that weekend is. September 23rd, I believe. I don't have much of the details on me, but I'll be there. And then there's a couple other shots. I'll be bouncing around, but the next international shot will be Mexico in November, and then I got a shot in Belgium in the second week of October. So I'll be jumping around. If you want to know where I'm going and what's up, just follow my Twitter, WWE Master P.